Hi, my name is Madeline Bazergi, and I'm a pedagogical counselor in the Office of Academic Development. This presentation on academic integrity was presented at the November 30, 2020 Career Council meeting upon invitation. Did you know that 30% of students cheat in America? The rest cheat in Europe. It's a joke. It was adapted from a Jackie Mason joke. Let's take a look at some of the reasons students cheat or plagiarize. This was retrieved from edutopia.org, Why Students Cheat and What to Do About It. First, there may be some students that don't see the value of the work they're assigned. The course or the assignment may not relate to their personal goals. There may be an overemphasis on content linked to high-stakes assessment. By high stakes, we mean that they're worth a lot of marks. We all know how difficult it is to remember content such as facts, concepts, definitions, etc. Our memories are just not that great. High-achieving students feel pressured to attain perfection. In fact, studies have shown that breaches of academic integrity are most often done by high achievers because they can't stand the thought of failure, or there may be a lot of pressure from their family, or pressure to go to university. They're risk takers developmentally and can't see the consequences of immediate actions. They believe they won't get caught. Cheating also appears to be almost contagious among young people and may even serve as a kind of social adhesive. And they may fear losing their social status if they don't. Technology has made cheating in school easier, more convenient, and harder to catch than ever before. And let's not forget the influence of social media. Students are used to reposting, and they see it as trivial. And they don't see that posts are somebody's intellectual property and don't feel the need to even thank other posters. Here are some quotes from students from the same article. There was no critical thinking, and teachers seemed pressured to squish it into the curriculum. They questioned you on material that was never covered in class, and if you failed the test, it was progressively harder to pass the next time around. I just couldn't remember anything I was studying. We really never applied any concepts. I didn't keep up with the work all semester because I had too many courses and had to memorize a lot for the exam. Procrastination, poor memory, being surprised during the exam, and way too much content are incentives for students to cheat. Let's take a look at some data in order to answer the question, do web-based assessments encourage a higher rate of student cheating than non-web-based assessments? A survey conducted on college students of the University of West Georgia has shown that close to 33% of students admitted to cheating on an online exam. That is potentially 1/3 of your class. But wait, when asked about face-to-face exams, 32% of students surveyed admitted to cheating on an exam in a face-to-face setting. This data is very interesting because it shows that invigilating face-to-face exams is not as foolproof as we thought, and that web-based assessments may not necessarily encourage more cheating. This presentation on academic integrity works for both online and face-to-face settings, and asks if we need to take steps to prevent cheating or if we can create conditions where cheating is not an option, or perhaps both. There is no straightforward one-size-fits-all solution. And I think we have to accept that it is impossible to completely prevent breaches of academic integrity. But today we can look at a three-pronged solution package. We can look at solutions from a technology point of view, from pedagogy, and from building a culture of learning in the classroom. Let's now take a look at technology solutions if you decide that an exam is the best way to evaluate student learning. Just about every online exam platform like Moodle Allows you to shuffle questions on the exam and also shuffle the answers within a question. An interesting feature is that it can also automatically and randomly select a question from a bank of questions. For example, there could be 10 similar questions for a 3-resistor series circuit, where each question has different resistor values. With these 3 safeguards, no 2 students will have the same exam. To make sure the Moodle exam is as secure as it can be, make sure you only show one question at a time to avoid students taking a picture of all the questions at once. Set your availability dates for the exam and the time limits, and limit the type of feedback shown to students after exam completion. Some teachers forget to do that, and at the end of the exam, they see every question they got right or wrong and can go back to fix them before submitting. One trick you can use is to Zoom with the students while they take the exam. You can have different breakout rooms with different invigilators, and make sure you disable the chat because students can use Zoom to chat with each other. Doesn't prevent them from using Facebook or Messenger or any other chat application. So you may want to have the students put their cell phones in the camera's range, but it doesn't prevent them from using the computer to do so. And so one option is to have browser locking like Respondents. I don't know if the college supports it, but you may ask your dean to look into it. Proctoring. Yeah, well, there's been a lot of controversy. There's been a lot of back and forth. The decision at the college was not to use proctoring for a variety of reasons, mostly because they cause big problems with invasion of privacy. The strict monitoring and the excessive flagging causes teachers more work because they have to go into the system to see if they can detect the possible breach themselves. The students worry that their personal space at home is exposed to strangers at the proctoring service. With more people at home, there are more people in the room moving around, setting off motion detectors. And there have been reports that bathroom breaks are ignored while taking a test due to the inflexibility of the system. And there's a lot of stress because the camera is pointed at the student and it could cause other problems as well. So the college decided to opt out of a proctoring system. Besides, the technology has to be very rugged on the student side. So there are other solutions to make final assessments more or less stressful. Let's now look at pedagogical strategies for designing assessments. The ideas presented may be applied for both online and face-to-face exams, but may take time for teachers to develop. Some solutions, if desired, can be applied immediately, but others perhaps in the longer term. When assessment of student learning is conducted often with a variety of methods using both low-stakes and high-stakes assessments, students are less likely to cram or cheat because they're receiving feedback throughout the semester so that the final assessment is not a surprise. Designing an assessment strategy that includes different types of both formative and summative assessments require time that you may not have right now towards the end of the semester. So what can we do now that we are nearing final exam period or final project period and must evaluate our students? Here are some ideas predicated on thinking outside of the multiple choice box. If you use an exam format, you may want to embrace open book exams. These are synchronous, meaning they're done at the computer together as a class, but they're allowed to use any source that they want. Consider taking take-home exams. These are asynchronous. They're more or less like an assignment. They have a due date. They can be done in groups as well. If you are using exams and you have multiple choice questions, have students show their work. So let's say they're solving a mathematical problem. They choose the right answer, but they also show their work, take a picture or scan it, and upload it to the learning management system. And we can show you how to do that. Include projects that require presentations or demonstrations so that you know what the student is capable of doing, that they've met the competencies. And you can use lab simulation software if physical dexterity is not essential. For example, you can have a transistor circuit where you insert an open and students have to troubleshoot and find the open circuit. And finally, you can consider other assessment approaches that require higher order cognitive skills. What do we mean by alternative assessments? Alternative to what? Well, alternative to the traditional way of assessing student learning that is more focused on the lower levels of Bloom's taxonomy, on what students know or don't know, mostly assessing their recall or understanding of content. These types of assessments are more prone to breaches of academic integrity because they depend on the student's memory, their ability to classify, describe, explain, list, define, etc. Alternative assessments are more focused on what students can or cannot do, their ability to leverage the knowledge and skills they have developed in order to solve a problem, perform a task, analyze a new situation, etc. And this is related to the concept of assessing the student's ability to exercise competencies, to leverage the knowledge and skills they've developed. Most of your program competencies fall in the upper cognitive levels of Bloom's taxonomy, and so require higher order thinking and psychomotor skills. Alternative assessments that help mitigate the risk of academic integrity breaches have these characteristics in common. They're authentic. That means they are representative of what would normally be expected of the graduate in the occupation. They require the students to use or leverage the knowledge, skills, and attitudes that they've developed throughout the course. And they may use students' environment and experiences. Let me give you some examples of authentic assessments that mitigate the risk of plagiarism or cheating. In a marketing course, for example, students work in groups to create a marketing campaign for restaurants offering takeout services in their own neighborhood during the pandemic. There may be no need to have an exam question on the 4 P's of marketing because their project would provide evidence that they understood the 4 P's. Similarly, in a software development course, students create a shop local website for vendors in their neighborhood that are trying to stay afloat during the pandemic. The question becomes, is there a need to ask a code debugging question on an exam if their platform works? Would a working platform be evidence enough that they know how to debug their code or work with others to debug like they do in the occupation? Here are some more examples. In a nursing course, students respond to not a case study, but an unfolding case study requiring the student to evaluate and then reevaluate a situation by synthesizing the information as it follows a natural progression. This is what really happens in the nursing occupation. In an analytical chemistry course, students produce a video teaching others how to execute a lab procedure to extract DNA collected at a murder scene instead of writing an exam. In a civil tech course, students create a video showing local social and infrastructural issues that would impact engineering solutions. Authentic assessments replicate the occupation as best as possible. Last but not least, the third proposed approach or solution to mitigating the risk of breaches to academic integrity is by building a classroom culture of academic integrity and learning for learning's sake. Our academic integrity policy at Dawson College responsibilizes us all on helping build integrity. In section 1.3b, it states, all members of the college community have responsibility for the maintenance of an atmosphere of academic integrity in all phases of academic life, including research, teaching, learning, and administration. How can we create an atmosphere of integrity? I believe that building a culture of learning will lead to less cheating or plagiarism. During my past project at Dawson, I interviewed many successful and not so successful entrepreneurs to understand what makes them tick. I found that most of the time, when money was the only motive for building a company, they almost always failed miserably. When the entrepreneurs were motivated by their desire to innovate or to improve the world, financial success came as a result of pursuing their passion. I propose that when students learn for learning's sake and enjoy learning, they will be less likely to cheat and the good grades will come to them. For this slide, I wish to share some of what I learned from my own experience teaching in a technical career program. In my classroom, I made sure to establish high expectations. I like to challenge my students. In fact, all my assessments were expressed as challenges instead of quiz number 1, exam number 2. They were called challenge number 1 and 2. I give my students ample time to solve problems. Sometimes in the real world, you have deadlines, but I gave them a reasonable amount of time to be able to solve the problem on their own. And I encouraged the student to drive their own learning and to support each other in the learning process. I allowed students to fail without penalty by giving a lot of formative assessments. Some say that if you don't attach marks to assessments, students won't do them. They will do them if they're challenged enough and you formulate them as challenges and they want to show off how much they've learned or the skills they've acquired. I would remind them that failure is okay and that things don't always work the first time, and gave them lots of examples of failures and why, a failure is a great opportunity to learn. But you can only do that with formative assessments so that they're not penalized for making a mistake. And I would praise the process and not the grade. I would point out student logic on an exam or a lab or a project that was interesting to share. And students receive ongoing personal feedback that I know that in career programs, this is the bulk of what we do. Most of my assignments were project-based, but if there was an exam, it wasn't a surprise because they had plenty of opportunity throughout the semester to practice and to try things. And I also gave students the opportunity to refine their work. If they failed miserably at a project, I gave them some other project to do or an opportunity to make that one work. And I would model the behavior that I sought in my students. I found an interesting resource at the Arizona State University. They propose actions to create a culture of academic integrity in the classroom. They propose that cheating be defined and proactively discussed with the students. Some students may not realize that what they are doing constitutes plagiarism or cheating. And to have an open discussions of the main reasons for cheating or even some of the techniques that are out there so that they can share and you can tell them what you know about what's happened in the past. They suggest that emphasis on academic integrity should be made throughout the semester and not just at the start, and to explain why it's important. And to get students involved in creating a community of honesty and integrity, and that they fully participate in ethical collaboration. They may even develop and commit to a class honor code or sign one that is made available by the college. This academic integrity pledge can even be part of every exam as one of the first questions where students sign off on a promise of academic integrity. The big challenge is, can we tip the scale? What do I mean by this? When grades have more value than learning, students feel a great deal of stress. There are a lot of negative emotions associated with assessment. Here are all the ways that many colleges and high schools deal with academic integrity, universities as well. There's a policy, invigilation or proctoring. When students are caught, they're accused, they're reprimanded, and then corrective measures have to be taken. Parents and friends may get involved. This weighs heavily on the entire system. When learning is exciting and has more value than grades, assessment may solicit positive emotions. Students are eager to show off how well they are doing. The focus is on building integrity rather than on policing it in order to prepare students for the next level of life. I know this is an ideal situation. The truth lies somewhere in between. Because half an hour is not enough to explore these 3 solutions in depth, we will set up 3 webinars sometime soon and welcome you to join. If you need immediate assistance, please feel free to send an email to the Faculty Hub address. Thank you very much, and we'll now open the floor to questions, and my colleagues are standing by to help support you. Thank you.